Thank you very much for joining in. My name is Ivan Nkono. I'm excited that we are again facilitating this broadcast from the Human Resource Service Center, and our topic of discussion today is the CV presentation. CV preparation and CV presentation is our topic today, and I will be going through a number of topics, a number of things that we need to know. Then later on, you'll be given an opportunity to ask questions. So you can just give me a few minutes. We wanted to wait for a few people to join in, but I think we can go ahead and make the presentation, especially if some people have not yet joined us. Some will join us along the way. Let's start with the presentation. For the last couple of weeks and months, a lot of information has been shared on CV writing, presentation style, and how you market yourself. I think a month ago we did a live broadcast whereby our main emphasis was on how you market yourself in today's labor market. How, as an individual, how do you market yourself for the market today? Because the dynamics of the market have changed, and so the way we present ourselves is different. But today, our discussion is going to be a little bit different. We are going to be focusing on an area that affects people, and that is CV presentation. CV preparation and CV presentation is an area that we are going to be focusing on now because of the challenges that we have today that are involved in the CV writing processes. So I'll start off immediately by defining what a CV is, because many times we talk about curriculum vitae, but exactly what is a CV? What is it exactly? And I think that is one of the questions that we really need to answer vividly so that we all understand. A curriculum vitae is a short account of what a person has to offer a potential employer, and basically its purpose is to gain an interview for a job, and it's likely to form a basis of that interview. Like I've always told you that a CV is your marketing tool. You write it well, it will take you miles. If you don't write it well, it will break you. So it either builds you or breaks you. So that is very important. The other thing we need to note is that while there is no definitive template, a CV will typically contain the applicant's personal details and the short statements outlining his or her qualifications, qualities, work experience, achievements, and the interests. So it's very important for you to also understand that part, to understand the contents in terms of what is expected in the CV. So again, we've also had some confusion around a curriculum vitae and also a resume. Many times there's a lot of confusion around that. Sometimes people mistake a CV to be a resume, and sometimes people mistake a resume to be a CV. And many times such mistakes are made in the CVs. But I also wanted to explain to you so that you understand the distinction. Your resume and CV are two important documents that represent your professional identity. And I think that's what is very important. They represent your professional identity. However, many people make the mistake of submitting a resume when a CV is expected. or vice versa. So below us, so as we continue with the discussion, you realize the difference. You'll find that there are mainly many differences between the two documents. That is the resume and the CV. The curriculum vitae includes a summary of your educational and academic background, as well as the teaching and research experience that is involved. Publications, some of the presentations you've made, awards, the honors, affiliations, and other details. The curriculum vitae is ideally 2 pages length, although it can sometimes even go up to 3 or even 5 pages, depending on the experience and seniority. It gives for some senior level positions or candidates. Sometimes the CV might be much longer. So the structure is very systematic and is generally drawn in a specific order. So the curriculum vitae includes everything. Includes everything that you have done, and can be classified as work paid or unpaid. It may contain voluntary and honorary positions and work done in such positions. So it's very important to understand all this, because sometimes we tend to underestimate some of the experience that we've acquired as a result of internships. We also underestimate the experience that we've acquired as a result of volunteering in positions. And yet this experience is very critical for presenting yourself and documenting your CV. So it's very, very important to understand that we have what we call paid work and unpaid work. And this makes a very big contribution in terms of your career path. So that is the little bit about the CV. I'm also going to talk about the resume. A resume is so sometimes people call it a resume, is a precise and very brief document representing at a glance your key skills, your main achievements. The resumes also tend to focus on your work experiences and skills only. A resume should not be longer than 1 page. So it's usually 1 page. You remember in the CV I said it's about 2 pages, but sometimes it can go even to 4 to 5 pages depending on the seniority of the position, in terms of the work experience that you've acquired over the period of years. So a resume is basically 1 page. And the resume would contain only what is strictly relevant to the job applied and nothing else within 1 page. In Europe, the Middle East, or Asia, employers are expected to receive curriculum vitae. East Africa region, whereas in the United States, a curriculum vitae is used primarily when you're applying for academic education, scientific or research positions. It is also applicable when applying for fellowships. So I think you can see where the difference is. So mainly the application of the resume is basically depending on the continents. So you've seen what I've just said, that in continents like Europe and the Middle East, Africa or Asia, employers mainly focus on CVs. Whereas in the United States of America, it's mainly primarily for when you're applying for academic or education research. So if you're in Uganda or Kenya or somewhere else in Africa, and you decided to apply for a job in, say, in the United States of America, what would they would expect is that they would want you to present a resume for your job application. I know that some people are asking whether the resume would provide, you'd have the education background and the reference checks. Because it's a one-pager, ideally you could state that the references would be requested, would be provided on request as a disclaimer. But ideally what we would expect is that you'd be expected to provide a quick glance in terms of your skills, your main achievements, and your experience and skills only, and not focusing on many things, because it's just one pager, so you need to be very careful. And probably even if you're providing the education, probably the high level would not expect you to provide the details, because you don't even have enough space to provide the details for the CV, rather for the resume. The other thing that I want to talk about is the types of CVs, and I think this is some question that has come up over and over on groups, on the WhatsApp groups and even the Telegram, where people ask what are the types, and it really depends. But I think what I would want to explain here is that there are mainly three types of CVs. We have the chronological CV, we have the functional or skills-based CV, and we have the combination CV. And I would want to go through them as below. The first one I said was the chronological CV. The chronological CV style CV is the most common format that is preferred by employers. With the chronological style CV, your work history and education entries are sorted by date in order of the most recent first. A chronological CV contains details of the education and qualifications together with the interests. Some chronological CVs also contain a brief statement at the front which sets out the key skills and the strength of the candidate. So it's just it's a method, it's probably a format where you start with the most recent job onwards. Whereas the functional skills-based CV places emphasis on your skills and expertise rather than the chronology of your employment to date. It is used in situations where specific skills and accomplishments gained through experience or academic qualifications will demonstrate your competencies. So in this case, your skills should be listed in order of importance. This CV format is specifically suitable for entry-level candidates or students entering the job market for the first time, or recent graduates with little work experience who want to emphasize their transferable skills. The functional resume is ideal for those who are looking for a career change. So you'll find that many times we have so many students who are leaving university, and many times they don't have actually the experience that employers are looking for. But most of them have been attached to different projects at the university. For example, some of them have been involved in projects like research, and there are certain transferable skills that can be demonstrated, whereby at the interview, but even in terms of their CV, that sell them for a job. Because there are certain jobs that require certain skills that a new graduate will not probably have through experience, but would have maybe adopted at the university. For example, issues to do with the presentation skills, issues to do with the relational skills, issues to do with the report writing skills. You may not have been in employment, you may not be in employment now, or you may not have worked at all, but because probably at the university you are involved in a number of activities, for example, at the guild, maybe as a guild president or a guild representative, and there are certain things that you are involved in. You could use that. For example, maybe you were involved in a research project for your thesis. There are certain skills that are demonstrated here, like analysis, critical thinking and analysis and reporting. which would be relevant to the job that you're applying for. So some of these skills are very important. So basically, for a fresh graduate, you need a functional skills-based CV to be able to highlight all these things so that you're able to position yourself for the job market. And even those who want a career change, sometimes you would do that. Then we have what we call a combination CV, which follows both the chronological and the functional. I've already told you the difference format. So in this case, the CV, it makes the CV slightly longer than normal. That is what happens with the combinational CV. It's a little bit longer. Examples of people that can benefit from this would be someone wanting to change careers. That would be one of the examples, and has some relevant skills for the field. It can also be useful when someone wants to demonstrate more skills than the work experience section allows for certain positions. You'll find that this can also work to your advantage sometimes, because many times employers want to use less with more. So using less with more means that if you're able to get somebody with more skills, then that could be very advantageous to the person who is applying for this job. Okay, then many times also we have people who are academicians. We have what we call an academic CV. And of course, this type of CV is most commonly used in postgraduate applications, placing more emphasis on subjects studied, projects undertaken, and details of research expertise and a list of publications. When writing a CV for academia, it should include research and teaching experience, publications, grants and fellowships, professional associations and licenses, awards and other information that is relevant to the position you are applying for. It's important to take it a step further and tailor your CV so that the content provided in this CV reflects your audience, the organization that you want to work for. So this is an academic CV, especially if you're applying for professorship, lecturers, positions. So it's very, very important for you to really understand the distinction. So having looked at the types of CVs, and I'm sure you've been able to conceptualize that, we are now getting to the next level of creating a CV. There is no right or wrong way to set out a CV, but there are some standards sections that should contain in your CV, and it's for this reason that I'm here, because I've realized that we are still lacking, even with a few audios and presentations that have been sent out to the platforms, to the WhatsApp groups, to Telegram. You'd find that some people are using those notes and audios to write their CVs, but when they send them back to me, you realize that there are still some gaps that need to be filled. But I'm not so worried that it's a matter of time. We shall get there. Now, in terms of creating the CV, one of the things that you need to take note of is the personal details. This is a very, very important area. Normally, this would be your name, your address. You can even decide to put your date of birth. You may not, depending on your interests. The telephone number and your email. So ideally, that is what comes first in terms of the personal details. And ideally, this has to be put in a way that your name is the heading of the CV, not the word CV. So it's very, very important that you do that. Then the personal details come. And when you put the personal details, you are putting them in such a way that they don't spend a lot of space, because we've also had situations where many of you have been wasting a lot of space in your CV, you find that the gap between your name up there and the details is so big, and yet you'd have concentrated on some things. So that's very important. So the information to include in your CV should be very careful in terms of the content and quality of presentation. CVs should never be completely formulaic. But there are a few things they should always contain. You need to be systematic. That's what I'm trying to mean in terms of the way you present your CV. And I told you about the personal details as one of the areas that you really need to be focused on. It may sound obvious, but you would be surprised how many people forget to include their name. Amazing. How many people forget to include their name, their email address, their contact telephone number, and address. So to avoid any awkward moments, make sure these are clearly presented at the top of your CV. So it's very, very important. It's very, very unfortunate that you can write a very good CV and you forget your contact and other details, because sometimes they want to reach up to you and you are not available. You are not able they can't reach you for the shortlist. So that's very, very important for you. The other big issue that should be on the CV is the personal statement, as it's the first thing that is shown on your CV. A personal statement is an essential part. Of standing out from the crowd. It explains who you are, what you are offering, and what you are looking for. Aim to provide why you are suitable in one short paragraph. Why are you suitable in one paragraph? So it helps you to stand out from the crowd. That is why a personal statement is very, very important on a CV. So we started with the personal details, we've gone to the personal statement. The other area that is very critical is the work experience. And of course, in this section, you should include all of your relevant work experiences. They should be listed with the most recent first, including your job title, the name of the organization, the time in the post, and your key responsibilities. So that is very important. So I've said personal statement first. Personal details first, the personal statement, the work experience second, third. The next one is achievements. This is your chance to show how your previous experience has given you the skills needed to make you a suitable candidate. So in this case, you are expected to list all of your relevant skills and achievements, backing them up with examples and making it clear how you would apply these to the new role. And I've provided a lot of experiences. I've provided a lot of education on this, especially in terms of how you write your objectives. So what? I remember that's three-step statement, because it has to be linked to something. So achievements are very critical and very, very important for your CV, because that's where recruiters and other employers are looking out to see whether they are bringing on board somebody who is bringing value to the organization. The other area that we want to look at is education. Very, very important for your CV. Your education experience and achievements should be listed here, along with the dates and types of qualifications. And sometimes you can put the grades you achieved, although if your grades are poor, it will not be ideal for you to put them here. So it's very important it will depend on the situation. For example, if you have more educational achievements than work experience, placing an emphasis on this section is a very good idea. Yeah, because there are some people who may not have actually a very good experience, but they could have acquired a lot of experience through the education component. So this gives you an opportunity to interact with the audience in terms of what you've done. So it's very, very important that this is taken note of. The other issue is the hobbies and interests. Of course, people don't take these seriously, but sometimes they can be very important. So in this case, you don't always need to include hobbies and interests in your CV. You don't have to, but mentioning the relevant hobbies could back up your skills and help you to stand out from the crowd. Not to mention, give you something to talk about at the interview. Just don't say you enjoy it, but try to make sure that there is a linkage between your hobbies and probably the job that you're going to do. How does that link with your performance? So those are the very key things. So I want again to get into the details. How do you write a personal statement? I'm sure very many people are not sure of what to include in a personal statement, but I want to give a small overview of what is expected. Although a personal statement can have many uses, whether for the university or for your CV, for the job that you are looking for, its purpose is always based around selling yourself. I think that's the bottom line to the reader. So selling yourself is very important to the reader. And not only do you have to summarize your skills and experience, you also have to make it relevant to what you are applying for. So how can you help yours stand out? That is the question. How? To make sure you are doing it right, here are some of the topic or tips to consider when writing your personal statements, and I'll be going through a number of them below. So it's very, very important that we take note of the personal statement. Somebody is asking a question, can you also list referees from the same organization? Well, it really depends. If you've worked in one organization, for example, if you've worked for Bank of Africa and you've worked for Bank of Africa for, say, 20 years or 15 years, well, probably your referees may be from that organization, but it will be ideal to get some other referees also. Because much as you've worked for one organization, it will also be good to have an academic referee and a social referee to have some kind of balanced feedback. However, it is always ideal to have at least a referee from each of the organizations you've worked with. For example, if you worked for 3 organizations, it would be ideal to have 3 referees from 3 different organizations. So a personal statement is generally the first, just a minute, okay. So I've just been talking about the personal statement as something that comes first in terms of selling you, and it's very, very important for the CV, like I've already said. It gives you a chance to sell yourself to the employer in a small and easy to digest paragraph by assuming, by summing up your specific skills and experience that make you perfect in the role. So it's very, very important. So you are able to prove your suitability and convince the recruiter to read on, because like I've said, your CV is your marketing tool. So when they read a very good personal statement, they will be very encouraged to read further into your CV. So in fact, a well-written personal statement can mean the difference between standing out from the crowd and your application being rejected. So it's very, very important that we take this seriously. The other issue that I wanted to talk about the personal statement is the how long should the personal statement be? Ideally, your personal statement should be more than around about 150 words or 5 lines of your CV, 4 to 5 lines of your CV. And more than this, and you run the risk of rambling and taking up invaluable space. So you try to summarize it so that it's not so long. Remember, it's a summary, not a cover letter. And sometimes that's where we go wrong. You want to do a personal statement, a whole page. No, just about 4 to 5 lines, 6 lines maybe. And that's it. And it's not a cover letter. So you need to be very careful. So keep it concise and precise and to the point. So what do you put in a personal statement? This is something that people keep asking all the time in the groups. So ideally, a successful personal statement should answer the following questions. 1, who are you? 2, what can you offer? 3, what are your career goals? Those are the 3 questions that the personal statement is asking you. Who are you? What can you offer? What are your career goals? So that is about the personal statements. Let's go into the details of education and qualifications. If your education background is your strongest selling point, then you should probably want your education section to appear straight after your personal statement. I want you to listen to this again. If your education background is your strongest selling point, then you should probably want your education section to appear straight after the personal statement, especially if you are a recent graduate. If your work experience is stronger than your education, especially if you're a senior level candidate, it is advisable that the education section features after the employment history, where you highlight your career achievements and experience. I don't know whether this is getting clear to you people, but I want to say it again. If your work experience is stronger than your education, especially if you're a senior level candidate, it is advisable that the education section features after your education history, and where you highlight your career achievements, rather the employment history, where you're expected to highlight your achievements in terms of your career and your experience. And what is that you include under education? What to include? You list the qualifications in order of the most recent and the most relevant first. List your university location. For example, if it's Makerere University, you say Makerere University, Kampala, your degree, and give details on the title of your dissertation, mention grades, unless they are poor. If they are poor grades, please leave them out. If you have a PhD, give the full title, list information on the relevant modules, dissertations, or projects that you prove you are capable of doing in the job. However, be careful not to include too much information. So, we've finished the details for the personal statement, we've finished the details for the education. We are now going to look at the work experience and employment history. What is that we should put? Now, under this area, we are writing your work experience should be only include the relevant jobs either in terms of the skills, the knowledge, or the experience to the job you are currently applying for. Start with your most recent work history and work backwards chronologically, listing the name of the employer, the company's location or the organization's location, your job title and the dates you worked there, and your responsibilities and basically achievements. That's very, very important. Try to explain the gaps in your employment history. If there are months or years where you were without a job, then make the reason clear on your CV. You give voluntary work, raised the family health reasons. So this is very, very important for you to give that, because sometimes some people have career breaks, and sometimes the employers would want to ask why. Then the other thing is that you need to use action verbs for your CV. The action-oriented verbs that show that you are involved in something, and not just saying that I supported, but what is that was done, and that is what we are failing. Most times people fail to rate achievements in the qualification section, and they normally focus on just outlining the activities in the job description. The other question that we need to ask ourselves as we are about to conclude is, what if I've not done the job before, or I have little work experience? You can still use the previous work history to sell yourself, even if you've done a job which you feel are irrelevant. For example, working behind a bar or in a shop will have given you the chance to display your leadership skills, your teamwork skills, the customer service skills, or business development skills. Some of us we don't take some of these other jobs very seriously, especially the non-formal jobs. However, you can still pick on to that experience, like I've stated. The other thing that if you have little work experience because you have been out of work due to personal or family reasons, then you can emphasize the personal skills and attributes that you have. Perhaps skills and attributes that you have are very, very important, and of course the hobbies and the charities that you are involved in, because these give you a chance to explore or demonstrate some of the expertise that you might have that will be relevant to the job that you're applying for. Try to relate the skills to the job. A finance job will involve numeracy, analytical, and problem-solving skills, whereas for marketing role, you would emphasize on persuading and negotiation skills. So you'll find that most of these situations are different. We've also talked about the hobbies and interests. These can support your application if your hobbies and leisure activities highlight the responsibilities and skills that are relevant to the job that you're applying for. They give the recruiter a fuller and more complete picture of your personality. So that is also very important. Keep this section very short and to the point. Show the range of interests, anything showing evidence of transferable skills such as teamwork, organizing, planning, and persuading and negotiation. So these are very, very important. Avoid mentioning your political and religious affiliations. So sometimes the issues that we put in the CV can work against us. So it's very, very important that we are very sensitive in terms of the information we put here. We don't want this information to be disadvantageous to you, especially in terms of your job mining field, because if it's to do with a political affiliation, probably it can work against you, especially if you're applying for a job where you are not aligning with the people's interests in other organizations. Then, of course, the other issues about the skills, the language, beginning with your the quality of writing in terms of other skills, like, for example, the languages you speak. Some employers, some employers like the United Nations would require you to have the second language, for example, French, Spanish, Arabic. So those are some of the things that you can include. The computer knowledge, programming languages, for example, software, and other proficiency areas here that you can also talk about in terms of your CV. The professional training and development, you can also list some of the courses that you have taken to the job in hand, and you have either already obtained or you're studying, or professional qualification. You may also include any other qualification and training from the previous jobs. So we have a lot of trainings that we attend. Some of them are official, some of them are basically just to enhance your capability skills. For example, if you may have some professional programs like CIPD for HR, CIMA for the marketeers, SIPS for people who are doing procurement, and supply chains management. So it's very important. Even some other short courses that may be relevant to this job can be very critical, especially in terms of in terms of, just a minute, let me take some water. In terms of value addition and selling yourself. So the other issue is to do with your references. Which is also very, very important. Sometimes people put referees asked on request, but it's important to have at least three referees on your CV. And also, one could be from your employer, and another could be academic or social. So referees are very, very good. Excuse me. Yeah. So the referees, like I said, sometimes you'll be academic. You have a social referee and a professional referee, and that's why you need three. So that's very important. So so that's how the CV flows. We started with the personal details. We've looked about the personal statement, and we've also talked about the education background. We are into the reference checks, referees, because all these make a very big contribution to the formulation of your CV and making it tick. Somebody is asking that how can a CV be upgraded? Of course, CVs are upgraded all the time. You can never have a CV that is static. A CV upgrade is as a result of change in job. A CV upgrade can be as a result of an advanced training that you've acquired, or a new skill that you've acquired, or an achievement that you've acquired. So it would require you to do an upgrade of the CV. It can never be static. It needs to be revamped all the time to make you ideal and to compete with the job market. And I've also prepared some few tips for you of what makes a CV good. There is no single correct way to write and present a CV, but the following rules will apply. These are the following rules that you apply when writing your CV. Provide evidence. Provide the evidence. Be honest. CVs are not legal documents, and you cannot be held liable for anything within. But if a recruiter picks up a lie, you'll be rapidly rejected. An application form which you have signed to confirm that the contents are true is, however, a legal document and forms part of your contract of employment if you are recruited. Work out what qualifications, experience, and skills are required for the jobs you are considering, and think of what you have done that matches those attributes. Be specific and provide details and evidence to justify your claims. So that's very, very important. Never lie. Never provide false information, because if that information is got, you will be in trouble. Susan, you're asking, can an upgrade depend on different job adverts? I don't believe in this notion of thinking that you have to do a drastic upgrade in terms of your CV in the advert. But what I would think is you can align your experiences with the requirement of the job that has been advertised, alignment, but not making a structural change in your CV. Daniel is asking, what are the chances that the employer may call your referees because some people put their brothers? It's not good to put brothers and sisters on your CV. You have to remain professional. And remember, these days employers are not trusting some of the referees you put on your CV, because they believe that you've coached them. Some of them are your relatives, and they will never be objective. So what you need to do is to put your professional CV, your professional references, and most times the employers will always get back to the organizations that you worked with through the HR department to do those reference checks, because sometimes the referees you provide are not trusted. So it's really ideal that you provide the right references other than providing your relatives and brothers and sisters. So Daniel, it's not right to put your brothers and relatives as referees. Concentrate on concentrate on putting professional referees. So the other thing, we are still continuing with some few tips that we used to embed in writing a CV, and I've been providing you some few references, especially providing evidence and being honest. Yes, Susan, it's always important to inform your referees that you've used them, especially for a job application, because many times they can be ambushed to make a reference and they are not prepared. So it's always good, especially at the time of offering, because sometimes they will offer, the employer will offer you a job and they will ask whether they would want to contact your referees. So it's always important to inform them and tell them that, look here, I've applied for this job and I would like to be my referee. I've included you my referee. Please do the needful. So it's very important. Let's go back to the presentation, but I still encourage you to ask some questions. I will be popping in. The tips on presentation: your CV should be carefully and clearly laid out, not too cramped, but with large empty spaces. Either use bold or italic typefaces for headings and important information. Set your margins evenly, right and left. Have an even amount of space between each headings. Each page should be on a separate sheet of paper. Put your name in the footer area so that it appears on each page, because sometimes some pages can be distorted and they at the point when you are presenting your CV, and sometimes they cannot be identified by the people that are looking for jobs. Are looking out for the jobs, the screening part that is done by the recruiters. Akram is asking that, can my CV still work when applying for international jobs? Your CV can work for an international job if you present it very well. Remember, when you apply for an international job, you are not going to compete with Ugandans alone or Kenyans alone or South Sudanese alone. If you are applying from Kenya, this is an international recruitment, so it means that your CV has to be top-notch. Top-notch means that you have to compete with the world. You have to compete with the world. That job application, everyone is applying for that job. People in Uganda are applying, people in Zambia are applying, people in Ethiopia are applying, people from Europe are applying, people in the Middle East are applying, people in Asia are applying. So you are an international candidate. So the CV, your current status of your CV may be relevant for the Ugandan market, but it may not be relevant for the international market. Or your current CV may sell you for the Ugandan market, but may not sell you for the international market. So you have to be very careful. The way you write, the spelling errors, the presentation skills, the layout, all these play a very big and important role in terms of your job search. So international job recruitments are a bit critical because there are a lot of things that are being considered. Remember, you're an expert and the expectations are very high. So if you have a very weak CV, then it's going to be very difficult for you to compete with the world. The other thing that I want us to talk about is make sure that the spellings mistakes are correct in your CV. Have someone to check your CV, read it out, and ensure that the spellings are not taken care of. Do not use complex words and keep sentences short. People who are simple, clear language are rated more intelligent. Sometimes we want to use complex words to make people think that we are very powerful, but it will not help you because most recruiters are looking at simplicity. So don't use complex words. Start every sentence with an action verb. Very important. I streamlined, I developed, I developed, I evaluated, those kinds of action verbs. Sometimes some of us are not very good. You say I assisted. When you say assisted, what do you exactly mean? So it's very, very important that you use the action verbs. And if you are to print your CV, print it properly on an A4 size paper only, avoiding using too small fonts. The font that is reliable is 10 to 12, but sometimes you want to push it to 7, 8 because you want to compact the CV into one page or 2 pages and straining the eyes of the recruiters. In terms of this length, in general, a new graduate CV should be cover more than at least 2 pages of an A4. A fresh graduate who has just left university, about 2 pages on A4. And try to use the maximum of 6 bullets points together, each bullet not more than 2 sentences. Daniel is asking a question. Talk about some organizations that encourage mainly females to apply. Is there a chance that males can apply? Yes, there is a very big chance. The reason why they put female candidates are encouraged to apply does not mean that they want females alone. They're only encouraging them to apply because there is a gender problem in the organization, the gender problem. So you'll find that probably there are more males in the organization, and they are trying to balance it up. But also, you know that the gender issue, many females have been lacking, especially even those who are skilled, who've been having a lot of challenges, them taking up bigger roles and applying. So in terms of emancipation and equality rights and all these kind of things, gender balances and all that, some of those connotations are used in the job adverts to promote the gender diversity aspect and all that. But it does not mean that because they've said females are encouraged to apply that it is kicking off males. Many times, even when you put females are encouraged to apply, you'll find that more males are applying, and probably even one lady. So that should not be discourage you. The question here someone is asking here is, Yaled is saying, how do you craft a CV for a fresh graduate with no experience? I've already explained that. I've already explained that for the CV for a fresh graduate who has no experience, you focus on other things, other experiences that have been acquired at degree level in terms of the responsibilities and other aspects like internship, volunteership, placements. You can use that to build up the CV. And at Professional CV Writers Inc., which is within the Human Resource Center, Service Center, a lot of work is now being done in terms of helping fresh graduates to write winning CVs for jobs because of our expertise in terms of writing. We are able to position you for a job interview, rather to position you for a job through writing a clean CV based on your experiences at the university. Like I told you when I was looking at the different CV types, I gave you scenarios under which you can use a CV type. And I told you that there are certain situations where you have to use a certain CV type in order to present yourself at that situation. So in this case, for a fresh graduate, your focus should be on the experience acquired at school and not the experience in the job because you've not really worked. Isaac is saying, is asking, can one include an education stage that one has just enrolled for? You can say in progress, but it will not make a difference because you are not qualified. If, for example, if you've completed with a bachelor's of social sciences degree in Makerere University, and you've acquired, you are doing say a postgraduate diploma in project planning and management at Uganda Management Institute, you can put it that pursuing a postgraduate diploma at Makerere University, but that will not make any difference because you are not qualified. Putting it there will not make you even better, because you are just doing the program and you are not yet qualified. Brian is asking, is it appropriate to list your skills in the CV? Yes, it's very appropriate to list some of the skills because there are certain skills that are required in your roles that will sell you. There are certain special skills that you acquire. You acquire them at school, but also in employment. For example, I'll give you a very good example. From the HR perspective, there are certain skills that you acquire through the job. For example, how to evaluate jobs, how to make presentations of policies. So you have your very good presentation skills, very good communication skills, very good relational skills, and many other skills that can be demonstrated. But also there are people who have practical jobs that require demonstration of skills. So it's very, very important that you list them, especially if they're relevant to the job. And probably this is something that can make you different from others. So it's very, very important that you take that seriously. Work history and professional experience concentrate mostly on the achievements and responsibilities. Show what you've achieved for the company during your work there. Don't rewrite your current job description because we are having a problem again. Most times we copy and paste the responsibilities in the job description in our CV, and of course this is not right. They don't expect you to describe. Copying and pasting your JD and pasting it in the CV is not showing any value. You are not providing any value at all. The expectation is that you concentrate on the achievements. That is what the employer is looking for. That is how they will see that there is value in you. But if you start copying and pasting the JD in your CV, you are not communicating anything. You are not communicating anything. There is nothing that you've done. You're only describing the content of the JD, but you are not providing. What you've done. So ideally here, you need to provide evidence in terms of documenting what you've done and how that has made a difference to the organization. Don't include reasons for leaving in your CV. Keep it there. Include the recent jobs. Include any other work that you've done, voluntary placements, activities. The employer will be interested in the quality of the experience, whether paid or not. Somebody is asking a question that how much are our services? Well, I can't tell you that this is how much we would cost, because usually when somebody wants to write a CV, they would approach the Human Resource Service Center on the email address info@humanresourcecenter.com or WhatsApp +256 772 48 1995 for a request for the services. Then once you do that, once you send a message or an email, then you'll be responded to in terms of what is needed, because there is a lot of interaction, there are a lot of questions that are asked in terms of your experience, to understand the quality of your CV, the layout and presentation, so that then from there they're able to advise on the next steps. Yeah, so let's move on. When we go to the education, include the honors that you've been awarded. Give more details to higher qualifications listed, such as degrees and the masters. Give full course, some content in terms of your course details and the dates when you pursued the courses. Write the degree expected if you are not yet graduated, because there are people who have not graduated and are still doing courses. Akram is asking, is it mandatory to attach certified copies of academic documents? If so, what level should we start from? Please don't attach documents on an application if you are not requested. Many times employers are interested in you submitting your CV and cover letter. The reason why they do that is to avoid the clogging of the recruitment system. Many times we put so many documents and attachments, we scan, put the CV together with the cover letter, the CV, and millions of certificates. It's very annoying. I think what is very important is that you need to focus on the CV and the cover letter. You will only provide the academic documents if you are requested. The reason why they do that is that you don't clog the system. If you put so many images, scanned images like certificates, you slow down the emailing system. So it's better you send the cover letter and the CV. So when you are invited for the interview, you come with original copies of your certificates for vetting. I hope that clears your question. And the certified copies of, yes, certified copies, a certified copy is only provided when you are requested to certify. But you don't have to certify if you are not requested. But the bottom line here is that certificates should be presented if requested. If the advert is not requesting for certificates, please don't request them. And if you've not been told to certify documents, don't. It is very common with government where they want documents to be certified. If they require documents to be certified, please go and certify them. Okay, let's proceed. It's been a very long day, but we are concluding. It's very important that we have this. What not to include in your CV? What not to include in? Don't include any negatives or anything critical. Don't include poor grades, unfortunate work experiences. Sometimes we put poor grades and they work against us. Don't include references unless specifically requested for some positions, although I would strongly encourage you to put references for the jobs. Don't include a photograph unless specifically requested. If you want, include, but it's not a must. Sometimes it can work against you. For example, if an organization is looking for a very handsome man or a very beautiful girl as a customer care, and you are putting a photo, maybe people will judge you because of the photo, which is probably not okay. Maybe you are not appealing in terms of beauty, but you might be appealing in terms of the sense. So you may go to that interview, you are not a very beautiful girl or handsome gentleman, but you are beautiful in the mind and in the heart, in the way you articulate things. So if you put your photo and the organization is looking at this person and they are probably not pleased with your face, they may put you off. So I would rather you leave it plain and continue. Do not include matters about your health. Sometimes if we expose so much, it will affect us because people will just get you off. Don't include any political affiliates. You may be applying to an organization that is inclined to a certain political struggle or political body. And if you are putting it in your in your CV, an affiliation of a party that is not aligned to theirs, then I don't think they will be very happy with you, and probably they may not shortlist you for the job. So it's very, very important that you take note of that. Don't include issues around height, weight, status, the children you have. Don't include humor. Don't include existing salary and expected salary unless you've been requested. Don't include reasons for leaving from your last job. Don't use graphics and images, issues around graphs, tables. You find somebody's CV is surrounded by so many tables everywhere and with a lot of color graphics and all that. Keep the CV simple for navigation. Don't use abbreviations because sometimes some of the abbreviations that are being used are not understood by certain people. Don't use jargons. Don't type the word CV on the top as the title. You should rather put your name as the title of the CV reader. The common mistakes that we make when we are writing our CVs are as below. Misspelling. Maybe before I continue, somebody is asking, This is Isaac again. When asked during the interviews about one's salary expectation, what could be the appropriate to state? Well, this is a very political question, and you have to be very careful the way you respond to it. Usually the ideal way is basically to give a range, and a range that I would expect probably to be paid within this range, and subjecting it to negotiation, so that you leave it open in such a way that you are not tying the rope in your neck, but giving them a range and also giving them an opportunity that you can negotiate either upwards or downwards. So common mistakes in the CV: misspelling the name of the company or the address. Sometimes we make mistakes. In the cover letter, somebody is writing a very wrong name, and it affects the people are not happy with that. Akram is asking another question. Certain jobs are usually very aligned to the religious background. Does this mean that if I'm not from the setting, I cannot apply for a particular job? Well, you'll be pre-screened through their tools to see whether you align with their values. Some organizations are Christian-based, faith-based, and because of that, they would want probably Christians, but they will have to assess that through their assessment center and vetting, where they have very specific questions that vet you to be sure you're aligned. The issue why they do this is just to make sure that you are coming to an environment where you are comfortable, not to an environment where you are coerced into preaching, devotions, and it's something that you are not interested in doing. So the vetting is done based on the faith-based approach. And from there, you can either pass the interview or not. So let's continue using the lowercase case for the personal pronoun. You need to be very careful, especially in terms of articulation, in terms of, we've talked about misspelling, we've talked about issues of the way you communicate and demonstration of skills in terms of your communication. Spelling mistakes, to avoid them, we should not be able to, sometimes you are not using verbs. Those are some of the common mistakes we use. One is misspelling. The other issue is not using strong verbs. Leaving dates. Sometimes dates are not put for employment, for studies, which is not very good because some employers would want to see the chronology of how you've been progressing in terms of your career path. Unprofessional email addresses. Some people have very unprofessional email addresses. An email address that has nothing to do with your name is unprofessional. Somebody is putting spiderman@gmail.com or spiderman@yahoo.com, and yet it's called Semakula Robert. So these are very, very disgusting. So it's very important that we keep it very professional. So we've been able to look at that, and the other thing that I want to talk about again is the achievement area, because when we talk about the achievement area, Susan, I think the cover letters will be something else. We shall talk about cover letters in a different session, because this session is basically about CV preparation and presentation. In our next session, we shall be talking about the cover letters. So I think you need to be patient, maybe in the next broadcast. Let's go to the achievement section. How do you write the achievements in your CV? When writing your CV, you need to cover your basic job responsibilities, but without just mentioning the routine. Keep your duty summaries concise, and try to concentrate on the results that come out of your everyday work. So highlight your achievements, not your duties. Again, I want to make some emphasis on the issue of writing achievements and how people have been copying and pasting the duties into the CV, which is not right. Copying and pasting. And the most annoying thing is that when you look at the job description, it will highlight your key result areas, and it will also have a component of any other duties. So you find that sometimes someone is copying and pasting the CV in the the JD in the CV, and is also putting any other duties. So you can see how it is very terrible to copy and paste the CV in your the JD in your CV, because it's not adding any value to you. You're only describing what the role is expected to be doing. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that the achievements are things you did that made a lasting impact for your company or client. It is a result that you personally bring about while fulfilling a particular role. Typically, they are things that you created, built, designed, sold, or initiated. It is not the same as responsibilities that come under a job description, as these seem fixed no matter who is employed in that post. An achievement is unique to your specific experience and tells the employer that you can deliver. So keep your duty summaries concise and focus instead on the unique accomplishments. Many people are uncertain how to express their achievements versus their responsibilities. This is because many responsibilities can seem to be achievements, and most achievements can appear to be responsibilities. To avoid any confusion, you must focus on determining which of the experiences that you have gained through the workforce can be classified as achievements and which ones can be classified as responsibilities. The structure of achievements. An achievement consists of 3 components: using the particular skills, carrying out a particular activity, getting a measurable, quantifiable result benefit. So when developing your achievements, you need to follow the what, so what formula. Successfully writing your achievements section of your CV is perhaps the most difficult part of your CV. And the simplest means of doing this is to employ the what, so what formula, a 2-step process that asks, what did I do? So what? What was the quantifiable result? Rather than stating that you were responsible for a team of 10 people, you could instead say that you planned, arranged, and hosted a team building session which resulted into improved communication within the office. So you can see how this can be applied, and I'm going to give some examples of how you demonstrate these achievements. What did I so I'm just trying to see how we can make it. So when you're writing your achievement, there are lots of things that you need to look. Did you save the company's time and money? So what did? You start with what did, then do, so what? There are 3 things that you need to follow. What did I do? What did I? That is very important. Then sorry, someone was calling me and yet I'm live. So there are 3 things you need to do when developing your objectives. What did I do? So what? So you say, what did I do? Made complicated inventory program for my company. Do, save the company time and money. So what? wrote a complex inventory application, saving time and money. So you can see that we can use another example, maybe for an accountant. If you're writing an achievement for an accountant, what did I? Implemented a new accounting system. Do. So what? Implemented a new accounting system for multiple locations, reducing time for customer inquiries. The other example would be, what did I do? Implemented a new client service program. Do. Developed and implemented a client service program. So what? Which expanded small to medium client base 35%. So those are some of the things that are very critical. The other few examples that I can give, I was demonstrating the what did I do, so what, but I also give you some examples of achievements. Developed a new employee orientation program that 100% of the company locations adopted. Responded to over 85 customers' calls daily and resolved 90% of their concerns. So you can see the what did I do, so what coming in. The other thing that I've talked about when I was starting this discussion is the use of action verbs. Positive action verbs should be used throughout your CV and cover letters to promote your achievements. They help make a strong impression. Here is a list of powerful action verbs. Remember, I talked about action verbs that you should use. And these are some of the action words that you can use, action verbs for your CV. Accomplished, achieved, act, adopt, administer, advise, analyze, apply, approach, approve, arrange, control, cooperate, coordinated, corrected, cancelled, delegated, demonstrated, designed, detailed, determined, developed, devised, familiarized, formulated, generated, governed, guided, handled, hired, identified, implemented, improved, increased, indexed, monitored, motivated, negotiated, obtained, operated, ordered, originated, overseen, perceived, performed, persuaded, planned, represented, researched, resolved, reviewed, scanned, scheduled, screened, selected, served, solved, spoke. So these are some of the verbs that you can use in terms of developing your achievements that show that you've done. And there are quite many. I'm still continued: assembled, assessed, assigned, assisted, attained, budgeted, calculated, catalogued, shared, clarified, collaborated, communicated, compared, directed, distributed, drafted, edited, employed, encouraged, enlarged, enlisted, established, estimated, evaluated, examined, exchanged, innovated, inspected, installed, instituted, instructed, integrated, interpreted, interviewed, introduced, invented, investigated, led, maintained, presented, presided, processed, produced, programmed, promoted, published, qualified, raised, recommended, recruited, rectified, staffed, stimulated, summarized, supervised, supported, surveyed, sensitized, and many more others. So those are the action verbs that you can use for a job. The other thing that I wanted to also give as an example, sometimes we want to just give some examples. For example, an example of some personal statements. For example, if somebody is a banker, you can just say that a well-presented, industrious, and highly passionate individual who has extensive and in-depth experience of the entire banking industry. So you are giving that kind of perspective, and you are also saying that you are able to gain the trust of customers by interacting with people from different backgrounds, and you have a proven record of contributing to profitability of the bank. And you conclude by saying you are now looking forward to making a significant contribution to the financial institution that will offer you the opportunity to progress in your career. So it's very, very important that that you look at this. The other examples of achievements is that the achievements might be reworked as they increase the company's revenue base by probably 10%, decentralizing sales. You're now focusing on your achievement to kind of refocus your achievements. And sometimes you can write the achievements in terms of quantifiable figures based on what you've provided. We don't have a lot of time, but I understand that there are some people that wanted me to talk about the cover letter. Let me quickly talk about the cover letter, then we can conclude this session. A cover letter is a short introduction letter accompanying your CV. The purpose of the cover letter is to draw the reader's attention to the most relevant aspects of your experience and persuades them to read your CV or application form. The aim of the cover letter is to inform the employer about which job position you are interested in, to express how your qualifications directly relate to the position for which you are applying, show how you can add value to the organization, encourage the employer to read your CV and arrange an interview for you. So it's another way of introducing yourself. A cover letter is another way of introducing yourself to the potential employer. Every time you send out a CV, you will need to have a cover letter to send it along with. It's a good idea to customize your cover letter for each job you're applying for. So it's very, very important. Then a motivational letter or a letter of motivation is a letter of introduction that is attached to or accompanying another document such as a resume or a curriculum vitae. And what should a letter of motivation contain? I know that this is a question that has been coming up over and over on the groups. There are several basic elements which should make for a motivation letter. Both your first and last name, a contact telephone, provide a number you can always be reached at, and up-to-date email address. The company name as well as the position you are able for, your reasons for applying to this position at this point, you can touch on those of your qualities which would be beneficial to the company. Finally, indicate the reasons for applying for the job with that particular company. Yeah, so basically that is my presentation today, and I would want to thank you so much for attending this broadcast. I'm just going to give you 5 minutes to ask questions. Do you have any questions before I close? I'm giving you 5 minutes to ask questions. If we don't have any questions, then I will have to close this session. The cover letter, I don't think at this age and time, I don't advise you to do a handwritten cover letter. That was in the past. With the technology now, I advise that you type it out, then print it out and sign. The motivational letter is normally about 3 pages. It's more than the cover letter, which is just 1 page. So the motivational letter will go for about 2 to 3 pages. Any more questions? Do we have any more questions? Are you happy with the presentation today? Has it been able to address some of your needs? I want to encourage you to join our Telegram group. A lot of interesting materials that we are lining up for the Telegram users. We have 52 WhatsApp groups, but I encourage everybody to move to the Telegram group, which is a very good group. We are lining up quite a number of resources on the Telegram group, and I encourage all of you to join the Telegram group. We are building up a resource center for several audios and several materials which will benefit you in the coming years, because the role of the Human Resource Service Center and the WhatsApp groups and the Telegram group is to build the capacity of people in terms of presenting themselves better for jobs, but also increasing their chances of being shortlisted. I'm on the Telegram group, not WhatsApp. Okay, it's still fine. The Telegram, because we are all migrating to the Telegram. We started with the WhatsApp groups, which are 52 but difficult to manage. So gradually we are looking at going to the Telegram, which we are now moving all the people from the WhatsApp group to the Telegram group, because it's more sustainable. It's just a one-stop shop where most information is shared, unlike the separate 52 WhatsApp groups, which are very cumbersome, especially in terms of delivery of information. So that's why I encourage you to go to the Telegram group, and all you need to do is to just go to the Play Store or Apple Store, then look out for the word Telegram. Look out for the application called Telegram and download it on your phone. And once you've downloaded it, you can just search for professional CV writers supergroup. Then once you get there, it will direct you to the link, and you'll be able to join us in the Telegram group, and you'll be able to learn from us a lot of resources that have been put up together. Okay? So thank you very much for your time. I'm so excited that I've been able to talk to you, and I look forward to serving you Once again, my name is Ivan Nkono from the Human Resource Service Center, and I want to say good night. Bye-bye.